نقص من الأموال والأنفس والثمرات وبشر الصابرين الذين إذا أصابتهم مصيبة قالوا إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون.
For the first time in the Gambia, your favorite GSM operator, Africell, is the first and only GSM operator to launch a brand new technology called the eSIM. The eSIM simply means you can use your phone without a SIM card. Do you have an iPhone 11, any of the iPhone X series, a Google Pixel 3, or any new phone that supports the e-technology? Then walk into any Africell customer care center and activate your eSIM today. With your virtual Africell SIM, you can use more than one number without having a physical SIM card in your phone. Enjoy this brand new technology for the first time in the Gambia, brought to you by Africell. eSIM, your phone without a SIM card. For more information, please call 111. Where Africell goes, nobody dares to follow.
Good evening. You're watching us live from the Gambia Radio and Television Services, and this is the news coming to you straight from Banjul. Also coming up, President Adama Barrow receives a special envoy of the Ivorian President Alassane Ouattara at the State House. The Ministry of Tourism and Culture launches the revised National Tourism Policy and Strategy Plan of the Gambia. And the Environment Ministry cracks down on the illegal timber trade as it employs legal measures to protect the environment. And on the international, cancer treatment centers remain filled and costly amid a growing burden of cancer in Nigeria. Of these and many others coming ahead in the news, I am your presenter, Fatu Janimbai. Well, it's good to have you with us. Now we begin this bulletin with the presidency, where the President, His Excellency Adama Barrow, received in audience the Ivorian Minister of Youth and Sports, Francois Albert Amighier. The official is in the country as a special envoy of Ivorian President Alassane Ouattara. The special envoy held talks with President Barrow and extended greetings from the Ivorian leader. Mamadou Diallo tells us more.
The Minister of Youth and Sports of the Republic of Cote d'Ivoire, Francois Albert Amighier, was accompanied to the State House by his Gambian counterpart, Bakary Badji. He is the special envoy of President Alassane Ouattara and is in the Gambia to seek support for the candidature of one of their nationals for the presidency of the Confederation of African Football, CAF.
Côte d'Ivoire présente un candidat à la personne de l'ambassadeur Jacques Anouma.
Côte d'Ivoire is presenting a candidate for the elections, and President Ouattara seeks for the endorsement of our candidate from West Africa. We thank President Barrow for listening to us, and he has called for unity among ECOWAS member states to increase our chances.
Que cette année, il appartient à l'Afrique de l'Ouest de présider la Confédération africaine de football.
During his stay in the Gambia, Mr. Amishia will have discussions with Youth and Sports Minister Bakary Badji on deepening cooperation between Côte d'Ivoire and the Gambia. Mamadou Diallo, GRTS News.
And elsewhere, the Ministry of Tourism and Culture has launched a revised national tourism policy and strategy plan of the Gambia. The event was attended by stakeholders in the tourism and hospitality industry. Well, details of that will come later in the news. Moving forward, the Ministry of the Environment is devising new legal measures to protect and preserve the country's forest and other natural resources from exploitation. This was revealed at a press conference on Monday, where the Environment Minister also further reveals a recent confiscation of over 400 timber logs and close to 22 containers by relevant authorities. GRTS's Baba Silla tells us more.
As the world witnesses increasing threat to its ecosystem and environment, authorities are taking urgent measures to protect the natural environment from further catastrophic damage to daily lives and livelihoods. The country's environmentalists summoned an urgent press briefing to inform the public about some of the unscrupulous activities depleting the country's natural environment, which includes illegal cutting of trees and other activities that now pose a great threat to the ecosystem.
We get intelligence that some containers were already into the ports. And together with the Gambia Police Force and with the intelligence, we were able to trace all these containers, and they were taken out of the ports. And right now, the culprit is going to court, and the judgment for that is set for the 19th of this month.
Bushfires are becoming more frequent, with the Gambia's expansive Kiang West National Park facing enhanced exploitation and sustained damage from communities and farming activity. These have led to extreme conditions, further exposing forest reserves to fires. The minister spoke on a wide range of issues bordering, including current effort to enhance conservation cooperation bilateral agreements with Senegal for the protection of natural environment and resources.
We have made several efforts together with our counterparts in Senegal, and we have made some agreements to have a work program that would be, shared by the two countries and the two forest officers and the security officers. And one very important thing that highlighted in that was for the two countries to have joint patrol teams of both securities, and we had done this in 2018. I think this paid a lot of dividend.
Amid efforts to increase coordination and protection of the natural environment, the minister also announced that a local contractor has been engaged for the construction of the ministry's own headquarters. For GRTS News, I am Baba Silla.
The National Assembly Public Accounts Committee on Monday adjourned their interface with the Gambia Bureau of Statistics, demanding the Bureau to work with the National Audit Office and provide the financial statement to the committee. Farmer Abaji attended the sittings, and this is his report.
The board and management of the Gambia Bureau of Statistics only provided their activity report for the year ended 2017, 18 and 19 without any financial statements attached. Baffled by the late and incomplete presentation, the chair of the National Assembly Public Accounts Committee, Halif Salah, demanded an explanation into the issue. This is what GBOS officials had to say.
We at that time had a number of changes at the accounts unit. Then the accountant has just retired, who was in charge of this account, and a new accountant was hired. This accountant spent about 3 months with us and left because he had a better job. And then it took us some time to recruit another accountant who is not very experienced. Because of the frequent change at the finance department also, it was difficult for us to act on time to provide the financial statements to the National Audit Office.
Officials of the Statistics Bureau say they've presented their financial statements to the National Audit Office for approval, and the chair asks if evidence of that submission can be provided before March 15, 2021. Musa Jallo, senior auditor, said that is highly unlikely as they did not include the missing reports in their plans for 2021.
During the time they submitted the 17 and 18, this was towards the end of the year, that's November, on our planning for 21. Unfortunately, GBOS in our plan for 2021, but we'll be revising this plan every 3 months, quarterly. So we'll revise our plan to include GBOS most likely in March. That is at the office level. But at the unit level also, we are trying to meet by tomorrow to see how we accommodate these audits. So it's not likely we can be able to audit them before the 15th of March or before the end of March complete.
The committee subsequently agreed to adjourn the sitting to grant auditors enough time to consider re-auditing the financial statements of GBOS on time. Farmer Abaji, GRTS News.
And I beg your pardon, that was the National Assembly Public Enterprise Committee instead of the Public Accounts Committee. Moving forward, the National Assembly Select Committee on Health and Humanitarian Relief today kick-started a tour to disaster-prone areas in the Greater Banjul area and provincial Gambia. The Select Committee is accompanied on a 6-day nationwide tour by officials of the National Disaster and Management Agency. Fatimata Cham has details of that in this report.
Going around the Greater Banjul area, it is quite ordinary to see places that are acutely prone to disasters. Sadly though, the people that live in these areas are on a daily basis susceptible to both severe environmental and health hazards. Performing its oversight functions, the National Assembly Select Committee on Health is touring these areas to examine measures put in place by stakeholders such as the National Disaster Management Agency to address the problem.
The challenges are uniform, but we want to see what is in place. How is this affecting the communities, outlying communities, and what has been in place in terms of prevention, in terms of mitigation and response, because we believe that prevention is easier, is cheaper than waiting until disaster strikes and then you do the firefighting.
As part of the tour, committee members are expected to visit COVID-19 testing centers as it moves to stay abreast with the COVID-19 situation in the country.
We'll be visiting treatment centers that are around the country, testing centers that are around the country, and as I said, it's oversight. We're coming to see what is in place, what is on the ground. We have been told that there are certain things on the ground. We want to go and see ourselves as a committee what is on the ground, and then from there we're going to prepare a report which will contain recommendations to address those challenges.
These areas clearly pose health challenges for people, affecting their lives and livelihoods, with most of them vulnerable to disasters, mainly in the rainy season. The National Disaster Management Agency is mandated to manage disasters in the country, but according to its officials, addressing these challenges remain a responsibility for all.
The problem is multifaceted. It needs a holistic approach, not only NDMA, but different stakeholders. Basically what we have seen, most of it is related to not proper planning being done in our communities. Because if you look at settlements, people settle anyway, anyhow they want, without waiting for proper due procedures to take place and then be advised to settle in a particular place.
The problem is clearly very much persistent. I mean, we've been talking about this same issue. We've been seeing these same images for quite a while now. I mean, when we go to Basse, a place like Kama, I mean, that's something we've been talking about for far too long. I mean, what is the problem? Nothing seems to be done. Where does the role of the NDMA come in here?
NDMA is a government agency and it is subvented by government. So as a result of that, government alone cannot do it all because the budget that the government has is not adequate. So they only give us little, I can say, that they can provide. But without that also, we are trying to seek funding from multi-sectoral and our other organizations that we work with.
As the Tour Party moves to provincial Gambia, these lawmakers remain poised to gather more information about the country's vulnerability to disasters and map out ways of addressing the issues. For GRTS News, I am Fatoumata Cham.
Now we're back to one of our earlier mentioned preambles where the Ministry of Tourism and Culture has launched a revised National Tourism Policy and Strategy Plan of the Gambia. The event was attended by stakeholders in the tourism and hospitality industry. Details of that in this report by Fatou Diba.
The Gambia's tourism industry plays an essential role in the country's economy. But for 2 decades, there hasn't been any strategic plan or framework to effectively steer the operations of the valuable sector. This year's Stakeholders Forum was an opportunity to develop this initiative with stakeholders and the industry's movers and shakers, including tour operators, investors, women and youth groups, as well as government partners. Coming amid a global pandemic that has ravaged the sector's growth, the critical roundtable conveyed and exchanged views laying the groundwork for the development of an all-inclusive new tourism and culture policy to address current gaps in the sector and engage future developments and investment needs while maximizing stakeholder participation.
Gambia tourism must, of necessity, undergo an unprecedented paradigm shift to better serve the country. A transformation in approach embedded and steered by a dedicated policy that promotes the integrated management of tourism and by this means enhance sustainable development.
We also want to look at, beyond the policy and strategy, the issue of risk analysis and mitigation, because we think that the sector is extremely vulnerable to political, social, economic, and pandemic impacts. And unless we, together with the stakeholders, think through as to what those risks are and what possible mitigation strategies government and stakeholders can put in place, we'll be lurching from crisis to crisis.
A viable policy and strategic plan is necessary to address the adverse socio-economic impact of COVID-19 as government moves to create and develop measures to address challenges impeding the tourism development.
Gambia government went further to pay the operational license of most of the establishments during the year 2020 on behalf of this establishment. Furthermore, the government of the Gambia again contributed $100 million to support the sector, which no other sector received in this country. I think the only other sector that received some support was the media.
Outlining the government's plan to revitalize the sector, Tourism and Culture Minister Hamad Ba underscored the importance of domestic and regional tourism as an alternative route to recovery and expansion.
All the countries that came back to the market after a brief lull of COVID were those who have strong domestic tourism policy in the whole world. And I think that was the reason why we thought about this prior to COVID coming into this country. So we are now witnessing Gambians going on excursions to these hotels, visits, Gambians going out weekends in the hotels with their family and kids. And I want to appeal to hotel owners to yet still be more realistic with your pricing.
Stakeholders discussed and put forward various issues concerning protection of rights and advancement in the areas of hospitality training, amongst others, to amplify the sector's recovery alongside a new document to provide long-term solution for tourism development in the Gambia. Fatou Diba for GRTS News.
Now elsewhere, the Gambia Press Union and the British High Commission are jointly embarking on a 7-day national awareness campaign on the Access to Information Bill. The initiative seeks to inform the public about the importance of access to information. Ominjai tells us more.
Cognizant of the importance of access to information, the Gambia Press Union initiated joint efforts with the British High Commission to sensitize communities and raise national awareness on the Access to Information Bill. The outreach campaign seeks to broadly address misconceptions surrounding the Information Bill.
We feel that as we expect the bill to be passed at some point this year, because it was sent to the Parliament in 2019, we will not sit and fold our hands and wait for the passing of the bill, but we can go out there and sensitize the population about the need for this bill and what this bill is going to address and how the citizens can use this bill, so that by the time it is passed, because I have no doubt that it will be passed, people already know what to do with it and what to do about it and how to use it.
The 7-day nationwide scheme is also expected to look into media freedom and contribute to the reform of laws, policies and practices designed to enable and ensure the free flow of information and responsible journalism in the country. John Charles Njai is the civil society chairman heading the Coalition on Access to Information.
Well, it is quite important that we have an access to information law, because with access to information law, you are able to hold public officials accountable. You are also able to have access to information not as a privilege but as a right, because there are certain types of information that every citizen needs. For instance, maybe people most times misinterpret or misunderstand that access to information is not only for journalists. It is also important for the student. It is important for us in civil society in writing proposals. We need data. It is important for the ordinary Gambian citizen that wants to know.
This meeting in the capital city targets women councillors, youth representatives, regional authorities, and traditional communicators who are expected to serve as local ambassadors, facilitating access to information in their respective communities. Banjul South Deputy Honorable Tumanjai.
The Access to Information Bill was introduced in Parliament in 2019 and it has passed second stage in Parliament, the second reading. It was actually at committee stage where we were discussing it clause by clause. We agreed on some issues and disagreed on certain issues. The bill sought to provide the framework for ordinary Gambians to access public records and information held by public authorities or by person providing services for them.
David Belgrove, British High Commissioner to the Gambia, underscored the importance of access to information, noting that it should be a collective responsibility.
Yeah, any public body should be accountable to the people. And that's not just media, it's not just civil society, it's individuals as well. You should be able to ask public bodies what information they hold on you. You should be asking them, what are they doing with your money? Those are important parts, and I think this is a very important step in consolidating the Gambia's democracy, which people have struggled so hard to achieve.
While efforts are being advanced to enlighten the population on the Access to Information Bill and the misconceptions surrounding the legislative document, it's crucial for the population to take ownership of the ATI bill to ensure open access for the citizenry. Uminjai, GRTS.
Now moving on, commercial banks in the Gambia are said to have agreed to reduce interest rates charged on loans from 21 to 15% to 15% in a bid to ease the burden on average Gambians needing such facilities. Well, for more on this development, we have Dr. Momodu Mustafa Fane, Dean of School of Business and Public Administration at the University of the Gambia, on the line. Good evening to you, Doctor, and welcome to GRTS News.
Yeah, good evening. How are you?
Yes. Now, you will agree with me that this is pleasing, of course, to the ear. Now, according to news reports, commercial banks have agreed to lower interest rates from 21% to 15% effective this month. Now, what do you make of this?
I think that's a very good news for the Gambia and for the business people in the Gambia. And I believe that why do we want to lower the interest rates? It's basically to encourage investment and to support economic growth. And definitely it's going to benefit the households, the farms and the SMEs will benefit from the lowering of the interest rate, and government will also benefit from interest rate lowering. So therefore it's going to benefit the whole country. Government also benefit through government also borrowing to build infrastructure in the Gambia. Nowadays you see government building a lot of things, and we could also based on interest rate lowering, the government can also now borrow more, so they can now invest in productive sectors in the Gambia. So lowering of the rate in the Gambia is long overdue.
Very well. Now, of course, having all the merits on this new initiative. Now, let's look at the reduction. Is it reasonable enough? 21% to 15%.
I believe I believe the commercial banks can do more. Looking at the MPC release of 2020 December, the MPC, that's the Monetary Policy Commission, decided a policy rate of 10%. I believe percent the central bank is setting 10%. I think they can do better than giving us 15%. I think they can do better. I think central bank study must have it based on facts or evidence that the 10% rate is okay. So I believe that commercial banks can do better than 15%. They can do more.
Right, they can do more. Now, how is the interest rate determined? Let's talk about this quickly. And what are the key elements involved?
I'm going to make it really fast. Here, interest rates depend. You can look at the theories of that, but I won't go into the theories. I'll just go to the determined by the central bank through buying and selling of securities, buying and selling of treasury bills, and that's how it is determined through the central bank, through their open market operations, in a nutshell.
All right. Now, there is this argument, Doctor, that commercial banks in the Gambia do not have loan-friendly schemes. Now, thus, a lot of money that could have been used to power the economy is idling, of course, in the banks. How do you weigh in this argument?
I believe the commercial banks, they're here also to make profit. They are not like a charity organization. They're here to be in business, to be in profit-making business. So those are also investment for the banks. So therefore, the commercial banks, they do give loans with, at times you say interest are very high. I agree with that as well. And I believe that the term of the loan can be very short. That you are giving a loan and the time to pay back is very short. That could be a problem for the business. I think if they can look into that aspect of the loan, if the time is somehow reasonable, I think that will be very good for the business in the Gambia. Most of the time, what they complain in the business is that the loan time to be very short. You are given let's say $500,000 loan, and you have to pay in 2 or 3 months time. That doesn't make sense to me. I think they need to work on the term of the loans, and interest shouldn't be a problem if the term of the loan is okay.
All right, they need to work on the term of the loans. Now, finally, Doctor, what impact, let's look at the impact that such development will have on the lives of Gambians, especially the ordinary Gambian.
Yeah, I believe that lowering the rate will benefit all of us. Now, as consumers and households, we can now borrow more, invest more, and that's good for the household. We talk about the small businesses in the Gambia. Most of the businesses in the Gambia are at the micro level. And most of the time, they have very small capital and small amount of labor employed. So they will all benefit from lowering of the interest rates. And I believe the government will also benefit from lowering the rates. And I believe that in the long term, government can now borrow and now invest in infrastructure that we see in the Gambia currently with the government. Now they are building a lot of new things in the Gambia. A lot of roads are now being constructed. But I believe that that's a very good thing for the Gambia. But I feel that the rate has to be properly designed. The way they are moving from 21 to 50, I think it's very steep. It's very fast. I think they need to study the rate change in the Gambia very well. If you look at the developed world, changing the rate, they do it very slowly. Like in the US or UK, they change very slow. But Gambia moving from 21 to 15, I feel it's very bad. I think they need to do a very serious study on that and look at the effect of this rate change on economic growth in the Gambia. I think the CBD needs to do a serious work on this rate change and see what is really okay for our development in case of the Gambia.
Very well. Many thanks to you, Dr. Momodu Mustafa Fane, Dean of School of Business and Public Administration of the University of the Gambia, on the line there talking to us on, of course, the new developments by commercial banks having to agree to lower interest rates from 21% to 15% effective this month. And Dr. Fane is actually saying that they need to work more on that. Of course, 15% is actually not very good. And now, Riders for Health, the Gambia has been touring the country to give its new new board of directors and government officials a taste of its humanitarian work. Louis Mendy reports that Kankurang and Kamfendeng in the West Coast region were the NGO's first port of call.
Riders for Healthy Gambia has a new board of directors headed by Usman Yabo and has therefore decided to take them countrywide to show them what the NGO has been doing to fulfill its corporate social responsibility. In Kankurang and Kafenkeng, two hard-rich communities in the Fonyi Bondari district, Riders has planted a water and electricity project to give the inhabitants a dignified life. Kerna Jalo is the program director at Riders.
This is our first site. And from here we're going to Mansakonko to see our workshop and our staff house which we built. And then we go to Bansang, same thing, see the workshop and the staff house which we built, then go to Basel.
The Kankurang and Kafenken water and electricity projects have been running for over a decade, serving over 60 households. It provides solar-powered electricity, a tap in all the households, and decent toilets to discourage surface latrine. Each compound has a meter, thus paying minimum amount for water usage, a mechanism put in place by the Village Water Committee for the sustainability of the project. Riders is pleased with the development.
We are pleased with the community's involvement in taking part in the water project. There were issues with the project. They put money together to buy a pump. It's expensive, but they came together, to put money together to buy a pump. We're happy. We support them in what they are doing, really, and we also hope that other communities will also emulate the Kankurang and Kafenken communities.
The Riders Store of project sites was also born out of the need to help Kankurang and Kafenken fix the recent problem at the water project, as the tank remains full to capacity, but the water distribution is not reaching all the households. Riders suspected some plumbing work since this problem only started some time ago when the village did some extension work fixing new water pipes.
They have a main valve here because when the pump was having a problem, for some time was not working, and when it started works, because it's happened to the same time we have a similar size in Carnif in our office. When the pump was having a problem a little bit, it was not operating. When we start operating it, the valve close the supply point, it get corrosion. So when you turn the valve on, the handle might be turning, but in the system, the mechanical inside will not be turning to open. That might be a case also.
Mohamed Lamin Jete, the Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Health, and Ibrahim Sisi, the Secretary to Cabinet, Greece Rider Store of project sites. Riders said the idea was to give them first-hand information on their engagements with communities as representative of the government, and also to galvanize support for possible replications of the efforts in other parts of the country. Brema Sise was pleased.
When we fix these taps, I think we should also have some kind of training so that those who might not be able to fix it before, and those who even went to India, but maybe at some point they need refresher courses. I think we need to arrange that one in due course. So I'm very grateful to the villagers here.
Riders for Health is a non-profit NGO running transportation system for health programs in Africa, including the Gambia. Louis Mendy, GRTS.
Now let's head straight to the Upper River region, where the same organization, Riders for Health, has handed over a vehicle to Diabugu Batapa Health Center in response to the transport challenges of the health center. The move is part of recent distributions of community ambulances to support labor companions at community level for easy access to health facilities. Our regional correspondent, Saidu Kamara, tells us more.
The tour by the Board of Directors of Riders for Health in the Gambia seeks to get first-hand information of facilities under the organization, as well as interact with the beneficiaries, partners, and stakeholders. The third party also visited Diabuk Batapa for the handing over of a refurbished Uhuru Community Ambulance to the health center to remedy the transportation challenges. According to officials, the Uhuru Ambulance will be stationed at Diabuk Health Center to support local birth companions in the communities to transport pregnant women to access the nearest hospital for healthcare services. Speaking at the handing over ceremony, the program manager, Riders for Health, the Gambia, Cherno Jallo, said the intervention is part of efforts to further reduce maternal death rates in the country by providing access to health facilities for all Gambians.
Now, during childbirth, we want all women to be safe and sound and deliver a healthy baby. Now, this ambulance is supposed to help address that, the delay in getting women to the facility. The first delay is the women deciding to go to the facility. Second delay is getting a transport to reach there. The third delay is the attention they would require at the facility. Now, this ambulance will help minimize all those three delays. Yes, we did some presentations in 2019. We are doing something similar today. And the whole purpose is to support government, minimize maternal death, reduce it to zero where possible.
Mr. Jallo further explained that the presentation of mobile phones will help ease communication between women birth companions in the community and the health center.
We are paying for the fuel, we're paying for the telephones. Our whole show is to tell them, please support this service. Care for the ambulance. Call when you need to call to receive the ambulance. We urging the health facility staff, the community birth attendants, birth companions, and all the community members to really look and care for the ambulance, and so that it can last as long as possible and save as many lives as possible.
Deputy Governor of Upper River Region, S.I.J. Conte, commended Riders for Health for the foresight while reaffirming government's commitment in response to health issues.
As you can see, this vehicle that we are witnessing to Hanover is called Uhuru X. It's a community transportation, like community ambulance transportation system that will be going to the community. It's a great initiative that we've been yearning for over ages. So it is something that we appreciate a lot, and we thank Riders for Health through the Ministry of Health for this particular vehicle that is here.
Secretary to Cabinet Ibrahim Sise emphasized government efforts in eliminating maternal mortality in the country, adding that the introduction of community ambulance is among the strategies put in place to save the lives of pregnant women by providing access to health facilities, especially during emergencies.
It has been something that government of the day since 2017 have been talking about good health care. But today we are here to demonstrate what this good health care is all about. Because we have already donated this Uhuru X ambulance, and this is a very important thing, because at the end of the day, the communities, those who are within this area, will solely benefit from it. So that is something very important.
Several speakers in the catchment area thank Riders for Health and the government for providing such an important life-saving mobility for the community. The deputy officer in charge of Diabugu Health Center expressed delight over the gesture and assured proper care of the ambulance. Seydou Kamara, reporting for GRTS News from Basse, Upper River Region.
Now, former senior official of the National Intelligence Agency, NIA, Salamina Drame, on Monday appeared before the Truth Commission to shed light on accusations made against him of being among torturers at the NIA, as the agency was then notorious for alleged frequent torture during former President Jammeh's regime. Well, Khadija Tujala was following proceedings, and then we will hope to bring you details of that report later or tomorrow, inshallah, in the bulletin. We'll turn on to take our first break. When we return, we'll take a look at some sports news. Just stay with us. Welcome to GRTS News, and in sports, Honorable Keba K. Barrow-sponsored Nawetan League competition kickstart in Batokunko, where Black Scorpions began the campaign with a 3-2 win over Central FC in the opening game, which was graced by the sponsor among other dignitaries. Farmer Abaji tells us more.
This man, Honorable Keba K. Barrow, has been empowering youths in Combo South involved in sports, especially football. He has sponsored championship in communities like Gunjur, Farato, Jambur, and now at Batokunku, where organizers say it was the first time they had a sponsor for their competition.
Sports is the only way where young people can come together to have more social cohesion and understanding with them. And it will not be just only for fun, but it will create an opportunities for young people to be able to take up football to a scale that can earn them a living and also improve their social and economic status, and they can be self-employed, and that will enable them to fit well in the communities where they are.
This opening encounter was all colorful, as dignitaries converged at the arena to grace the contest. Entertainment was not lacking. Central FC in Sky Blue looked the better side in the initial proceedings, but they found themselves behind after 27 minutes.
The number 10.
When Abdullah Cole opened the scoring for Black Scorpions with a tame free kick.
And it's a goal! My goodness, that was some...
But Central FC responded just before the break, as Almame Jahate fired home from close range.
The strike is in and it's equalizer. 1-1, they are able to pull one back before the half-time break here.
10 minutes after the break, team captain Marlon Jassy put Black Scorpions in front with a low drive to make it 2-1.
And it's into the net. That was some poor goalkeeping by the goalkeeper.
Abdullah Cole then completed a brace to give Black Scorpions a 3-1 lead as the scoreline seemed unassailable. However, Mamdemba made the scoreline pleasing under the eye as he pulled one back for Central FC with a stoning header. There was uncertainty over the legitimacy of the goal, as the referee had to consult with his assistant before awarding a goal, as the tie ended 3-2 to Black Scorpions.
First of all, I will say a big congrats to my boys. They have done a wonderful job, and then I'm very happy and pleased with the results.
This is a very disappointing result, and then we learn a lot from this. Next game, I can assure you that this thing will not happen. Yeah, and then we shall win that game, inshallah.
This opening encounter could be described as an entertaining one. Farmer Abaji, GRTS News.
And from sports, we now head straight to the international scene, beginning in Nigeria, where there is a growing burden of cancer, but cancer treatment centers remain filled and costly. Less attention is also being paid to the treatment of the disease now that the nation is battling with COVID-19. As CGT and Kaleshi Emekalam reports, health advocates are pushing for better cancer management policies.
A support group meeting for patients and survivors of cancer ongoing in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Discussions center around the impact of COVID-19 on the treatment of cancer. Gloria Oku was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2017. Getting access to treatment was very challenging, so much so that she resorted to herbal treatment. But that too wasn't helpful.
And I have to see my doctor. I have to leave my house 5 a.m. because the queues will be long, and then a few doctors, so that at least by 10 or 11 you have seen your doctor and then you leave. So it's quite stressful. The machines for radiotherapy, I think it's about 8 or 10 machines in the whole of Nigeria to cater to over 200 million people. So you see people traveling from very far distances to go and do radiotherapy, sleeping outside, sleeping in the mosques, you know. People go through a lot of stress to access these treatments.
Gloria is one of the few who have gotten support from groups like this. Many others haven't been as lucky. Cancer is a major health threat in Nigeria. Government sources estimate that annually there are 102,000 new cases recorded, but also 72,000 deaths. And that's why support groups like Project Pink Blue are driving cancer awareness.
Nigeria is really like hosting the greatest cancer burden in the whole of Africa. And the survival rate in Nigeria is like the worst in the entire world. cancer patients are not also receiving treatment early. So early detection is the key, but early treatment is the key. Because when you detect very early and you're not able to access treatment very early, it's useless. In Nigeria, many cancer patients are not getting clinical trial. What I mean by that is that many of the medicines that are used in Nigeria are not field tested with Nigerians. So basically what we are saying today is that enough is enough. The government needs to make more structural and more fundamental, commitment to cancer control.
Depending on the type and stage, cancer treatments could range between $6,000 and $39,000. A huge financial burden in a country where more than 40% of the people live below the poverty line. Also, the COVID-19 outbreak poses additional risks for cancer patients.
We are not making enough investment in cancer education, cancer.
Well, cancer there as a major health threat in Nigeria. Now that brings us to the end of this edition of the news here on GRTS. But before we go, a quick reminder of our top stories once again. President Adama Barrow has received in audience the Ivorian Minister of Youth and Sports, who is a special envoy of President Alassane Ouattara at the State House. The Ministry of Tourism and Culture has launched a revised national tourism policy and strategy plan of the Gambia, which was attended by stakeholders in tourism and hospitality industry. The Ministry of the Environment is cracking down on illegal timber trade as it devises legal measures to protect the environment. And on the international, cancer treatment centers remain filled and costly amid a growing burden of cancer in Nigeria. Now, that was all in this edition of the news at 2000 hours here on GRTS with me, Fatou Janimbai, and I'll see you again at 2200 hours, inshallah, for another bulletin. Until then, stay safe.